Hello, ladies and gentlemen, to the James Station Podcast, After Dark. Now, we're gonna do something different today. Horror stories, be it urban legends or perhaps a tale at the campfire, are great discussion points. There are bits of our psyche and folklore made manifest. However, nothing is scarier than a real horror story. A real one will be our topic today. Allow us to enter a world of visceral violence, exploitation, and the lost and forgotten. Allow us to enter the world of child soldiers. You may wonder, why the sudden shift in topic? Well, obviously I have a school project. I recently read a few interesting articles on the issue. In one of the articles, Marianne Pearl said, research reveals that if all women had a primary education, child marriages, child mortality, and etc. could fall by a sixth, and maternal deaths by 2/3. Sorry, that was kind of confusing wording there. But regardless, that is pretty absurd sounding, isn't it? That education miraculously ends these problems. I wanted to see how far it would apply to child soldiers, and that led me down a longer rabbit hole than I'd expect. I discovered that Myanmar, formerly Burma, had recently released a small amount of child soldiers that they had back to society, despite the fact that the country had had a rule against child soldiers since 1974. However, we will return to this after a commercial break. Are you tired of those cumbersome stereotypical commercials that hit all those cheesy advertising tropes? Are your loved ones being hurt by those black and white portrayal of issues and those oversaturated portrayal of solutions? Well, do I have the product for you? With this new ad skip, just click the center of the screen and skip the final 3 seconds of this ad. It's an amazing deal you won't get anywhere else, so order today. Okay, listen, I know I'm not paying you much for this. Can you please just do this? Okay, I know I blew up your car, but can you just... Oh, why, hello there. We're editing that out, right? Right. Well, welcome back to the James Station Podcast, After Dark. Today, we're covering a much darker topic than usual. Everybody is probably aware of the grim reality of child soldiers and refugees. The amount of children displaced and put into refugee status reached the 20 millions, and approximately 300,000 of those children are serving as child soldiers right now. Both females and males are forced to serve, and these child soldiers are often recruited from refugee camps after being displaced or just because neglect from or an inability to be cared for by their parents. The psychological damage caused by war has been known to either null a child to violence completely or plague them with depression or regret for the rest of their life. Even the ones that are able to escape and make it back to America, make it to America or any other country that provides hope are not lucky. Jennifer Everett wrote about the story of a child soldier named Yen Keen who managed to escape the war and got into America and was granted asylum. However, this is not always the case, as she writes. However, unlike Yakin, not every former child soldier seeking asylum is granted protection. Sadly, if you're 18 or over and escaped a war, you can still be tried for the crimes you committed, as you are not legally a child. However, the situation is not as grim as it would seem. Former child soldiers have been able to reform themselves and aid in the reforming of others, and it is also recognized that crimes committed by children are not of their own volition, and they're not charged with it. There thankfully is hope within the world. Oh yeah, before the break we discussed Myanmar and how they recently released a small amount of child soldiers. So, the reason why they had child soldiers in the first place is because they started recruiting to meet their manpower quota in 1988, despite the law that passed to bar the recruitment of child soldiers in 1974. They targeted mainly dropouts, runaways, and any other hooligan they saw fit, and currently have upwards of 5,000 child soldiers still in uniform. In fact, Tint Sway, the chairman of Burma Center Delhi, admitted that the army has a record of recruiting child soldiers for years, but didn't admit it. So, how does this relate to the issue, you ask? It's to show that even in a country at peace, children are still being recruited for war. We all know the past has had rough experiences with child soldiers, such as the Khmer Rouge, an experience I'm well versed in. Both my mother and father had to go through it, and the Khmer Rouge was a complete coup d'etat, and children from the city were forced to work it nearly 24/7 in farms and villages, and most of them were recruited as child soldiers when the war efforts were slowly trickling away. In Somalia, a militant group running out of soldiers has targeted children to replenish their ever-shrinking army. This civil war, in turn, also forced the Somali government to use child soldiers. One probably thinks that a child soldier is more of a liability than anything, but this is the opposite. Children just need something to do. I'm sure we've all seen a small child at one point just lie on the floor and turn themselves into a burrito with a blanket just to have something to do. They don't need reasons or doubts, or have doubts and complaints. They just do things. They are easily manipulated, will do as told, and drugging them, which is what many militant groups often did. They just didn't feel pain. They didn't really have emotion past that point, and it got to the point where they're apathetic for the world and violence doesn't affect them at all. This psychological impact usually sticks with them for the rest of their life, and if it doesn't, they often can never go back home, because usually militant groups force them to either kill a family member or neighbor. They can never go back to that society. They are shunned from it. They are outsiders now, the byproduct of a war, shunned by the community as another enemy of society. We'll be back after this commercial break. Let's be honest here. You get lonely. People get lonely all the time. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Sometimes we just need a little direction, or a little narration in our life. That's what this new DVD is for. Today we're offering the Morgan Freeman version of Your Life, the Narration, for only 3 relatively difficult payments of $25.99. Sure, it's not exactly useful, but it's Morgan Freeman narrating your life. Who wouldn't want that?
Alright, listen, we already went through this, and I'm sorry about the car, but can you please... welcome back. Before the break, we went over how child soldiers has been an issue for quite a while. But that's not to say that there's nothing being done to stop it, and there is, in fact, things you can do to help. Many child soldier rehabilitation groups are out there, such as SOS Children's Villages, which tries its best to re-enter child soldiers back into society. There are also groups that directly try to take children out of combat, such as UNICEF. You know, the group that gives you those cardboard boxes and, trick-or-treating for UNICEF, that kind of stuff. If you remember that. You can easily support these groups by raising awareness and donating. However, child soldiers are often recruited from raided refugee camps, which is an issue that cannot exactly be fixed. Refugees displaced from war often have no money to go anywhere else and are forced to stay within these vulnerable camps. The UNHCR, however, the UN's Refugee Department, has solutions that will allow refugees to move out of camps and find safety in a community, usually by integrating them into a local society, or, in a 1% chance, moving them to a first world country that offers space for refugees. Again, you can just donate to support the UNHCR. So that's about it for this week's installment of the James Station Podcast, After Dark. Come back next week for a regularly scheduled program where we look into the dark world of horror. Next time, we're going to be reading Jack the Ripper on Ice. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a nice day.